Nothing in this country is ever going to change if we do not make ourselves uncomfortable, if we're not willing to sacrifice anything. It's never going to be any progress if the people with access and resources hoard all of that resource and access in one spot because they're afraid. To me, it's ass backwards for me to say you should prioritize diversity, but then say, but if it makes you uncomfortable and if it's not safe, then I'm sorry, guys. If we really want to dismantle racism, like we say we do, then we gotta make ourselves uncomfortable. We gotta make ourselves uncomfortable. There's no closing the opportunity gap if we take away all the opportunities. If we take away all the resources, if we take away all the wealth, we take away all the privilege. Anyway, I'm gonna stop, but that's my answer to that question. Hey TRA family, if you didn't already know, we are sitting on my new Hey TRA set. If you don't follow me on social media, you didn't probably see that my husband surprised me with this wonderful set for Hey TRA this Valentine's Day. Brett is the best. Anyway, so you've seen the set. Here it is. It's wonderful. I know. Now all of my videos are super duper official. So, excuse the computer, but I need to look at my notes. So, if this is your first time here, I want to say welcome to Hey TRA. I'm so happy that you are watching. My name is Hannah Matthews. I'm the content creator behind Hey TRA. And if you don't already know, a TRA or Transracial Adoptee is someone who is adopted or fostered by a person or family whose race is different than their own. This racial difference makes navigating racial identity, race, and racism extremely challenging for the transracial adoptee. Therefore, I created Hey TRA to help TRAs and their families better navigate these difficult situations together. I release a new episode every other Wednesday, except if you are on my Patreon. For $5 a month, you can have access to an episode every single Wednesday. That's right, 2 bonus episodes a month. Not only that, but you get access to free content, future TRA events, and discounts to merchandise, books, etc. So be sure to check that out for as little as $5 a month. If you do not already, be sure to follow Hey TRA on social media. We have accounts on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter, although I am very bad at Twitter. So you can follow me there, but you're not going to see very much. That's beyond the point. Follow us on Instagram. You can find us on Instagram at _Hey TRA and on Facebook at Hey TRA page. And subscribe to my channel right now. Hit the subscribe button and hit that little bell so you can be notified when I upload a new video. In today's episode, I'm mixing it up a little bit, and I haven't prepared a topic for you. I have asked you all through my social media to give me questions. So today's episode is a question and answer episode. It's my first time ever doing this, and in order to keep my answers authentic and come from my gut, I wanted to kind of just let my answers be the most organic and authentic version of themselves. So I didn't prepare any of my answers beforehand. I breezed over the questions just to check that which ones I would use, which ones I wouldn't, but I didn't prepare any answers. So you guys are getting my very first reactions and whatever my intuition tells me is the best based on my own experiences as a transracial adoptee. All right, so without any further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so my first question. Okay, this question comes from Emily Marie on my Facebook page. She said, hello, we are adopting parents of 1 African-American son and 3 white biological siblings. Are we doing harm to our son by not adopting more children that look like him? Also, any tips for building confidence for children who are raised in families that look different than them? Thank you for all you do. Thanks, Emily, for your question, and thank you for the compliment. Okay, so I'm going to answer your question in two parts because it has two parts. So the first one is, are we doing harm to our child by not adopting children who look like him? Not necessarily, but I did grow up with a transracial adoptee as a brother. He was adopted from Seoul, South Korea. And I'm not going to lie to you, it was nice to have that solidarity when navigating places that were so incredibly white. I would challenge you that if you maybe aren't able to adopt more children that look like your son, just ensuring that there are places that you have him that are gonna have people, he's gonna have racial mirrors elsewhere. So if he's not gonna have racial mirrors inside of your family, at least provide him racial mirrors outside of your family. So that would be my answer to your first question. Second question, building confidence. I think allowing your children to explore their own racial identity, whatever they find interest in, empowering them to continue to look for those things. For example, with my parents, I was extremely interested in African American history, and I'm still very much interested in African American history. And my dad is a huge history buff, but he really is interested in he likes Civil War history, especially. But if I wanted to read about anything that had to do with history, if it interested me, he let me go for it. So if I really wanted to read about, I remember I had a book about the Little Rock Nine. He was like, absolutely. And then he would buy me as much books as I wanted or whatever about that particular time period. So just encourage your children when they're interested in certain things. If they're not interested in something, it's okay. Try something else. Yeah, I would just say provide them with racial mirrors through movies, books, toys, but also actual racial mirrors of people, peers, mentors in their lives that look like them. That I think will help them build confidence in their racial identity, as well as you speaking life into them. I once saw a meme that said that what parents say to their children becomes their internal voice. And so I think you saying positive things about his racial identity and just building him up in that way and affirming him and saying, he is a Black boy, he is an African American boy, having those things be repetitive and speaking that into him and seeing it as a positive thing. I think all those things also will help him build confidence in his identity, because I felt confident in my identity, and that was because my parents really did a good job of affirming my racial identity. It was never something they didn't speak about. It was just part of who I was. So yeah, Emily, thank you for this question, and I hope that answer made sense and did it some justice. All right, this one is from Amy Amelia. If your family went on vacations when you were younger, is there anything that you wish they would have done differently? I wish you would have asked me a little bit more about this, Amy. If my parents did take us on vacations a lot. I don't know if I would have thought this then. Maybe I did. But maybe one thing I wish they would have done differently is a lot of times in white spaces, vacation spots are recommended, family to family essentially. So, your family, a friend of your family goes to the shore and they say, hey, have you gone to the shore? For me, where I live, I'm from Pennsylvania. So the shore might be a big place a lot of people went was the Outer Banks, North Carolina. So a friend of our family might say, hey, we go to the Outer Banks, you should check it out, it's beautiful. So we go down there. I think I'm struggling with how to say what I want to say right now, but basically sometimes, actually, a lot of the time, okay, white people have the privilege of not having to think about whether or not a place is going to accept them for who they are, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is pretty much you can travel wherever you'd like because white supremacy is the way of most of the world. And so you're probably going to be accepted wherever you go, especially within the continental US. So you're going to have a great experience in North Carolina. You're going to have a great experience in South Carolina. And that experience might not be the same for a Black family who goes to visit those places. I've always wanted to create a YouTube series called Traveling While Black, where my husband and I review cities to be able to tell Black people if it's a safe place where they can travel. Because a lot of times people you read a blog and they're like, I loved Paris. And it's like, am I gonna have a great time in Paris? Or am I going to be faced with racism? Or specific cities. Let's say you wanna go have a vacation in South Carolina. You want to go to Charlotte. White people love Charlotte. And so, is that North Carolina? Anyway, sorry. White people love Charlotte. So you want to go to Charlotte. But is the restaurants that they recommend or the places that they suggest, are they going to be welcoming and as friendly to my family based on the way that we look as they were to your family? So again, I've always wanted to create a series that kind of was able to say here's a good place for you to go, and maybe not the best place to go here. Where are the good vacation spots for people who look like my family does? So all of that, which I'm probably going to edit out a number of it. All of that to say, I think I would have wished my parents were a little bit more thoughtful about how diverse the vacation spots they took me to were and how friendly those places were historically and presently to people of color. Yeah, that sounded right. Okay. Second question that you gave me was, what would be your number one advice to parents who are raising Black children? That's a really hard question to answer, Amy. It's not about you. That'd be my number one advice. It's not about how comfortable you are, how I feel like you are now responsible for a person of color. And so your life should constantly be reflecting the uncomfortability and I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say. As a Black person in America, you're never comfortable. You're never safe. There's no amount of money, no amount of status, no amount of reputation that will save you from racism. And when you choose to parent or are chosen to parent a child of color, you have now taken on that same level of uncomfortability. And so my advice to you is to constantly be getting comfortable in, I guess that's the best word for it, but familiar with that feeling. You'll never fully understand it, but the more that you can sit in that, the more you will understand what your child experiences all of the time and has no ability to in any way turn it off. I think that's the most important thing I'll tell you. I think it would be to do your work and to understand the depth of responsibility you have. It's life and death responsibility as far as I'm concerned in raising a Black child. And also, yeah, that's what I would say. There's a lot of things I would say. It's hard to pick out just one, but I think just to understand and live with the depth of responsibility that you have. Because unfortunately your mistakes can kill your child. And what were some of my favorite books as a child, teenager, and adult? I don't have an episode about this. I should make an episode about this. I'm gonna save that question, Amy, and I'm gonna move on to somebody else's. I might make an episode about it. What is a book movie that really resonated with you as a child? This is from Alicia Watt. Thank you, Alicia, for your question, and thank you, Amy, for that question earlier. One movie that resonated with me as a child is the Disney Cinderella with Brandy. I own it. That's how much it resonated with me. It's like it's probably my favorite movie of all time. And that's because it's a black princess. It changed my life. First of all, I just love music. I love musicals. And it was like the first musical that I'd ever seen that had a black protagonist who was like the love interest. Anyway, that movie, it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to me. And yeah, I love it for that reason. How did okay, this is also from Alicia. She said, how did I explain being an adoptee to my kids? Well, I have a very close relationship with my adopted parents. We have weekly, like, Sunday dinners together. So the racial difference is obviously very much evident. So I use that as a jumping point for explaining that my adoptive parents, or my mom and dad, which I call them, and that's my kids, Nini and Papa, I tell them that, like, they adopted me. You know how mommy had you in her tummy? Nini, I wasn't in Nini's tummy. I was in a different mommy's tummy. And yeah, I mean, my kids are really young, so I just use very, like, kid appropriate terms to explain adoption to them. But basically I just explained to them, like, I had a mommy who gave birth to me, and I had a mommy who raised me. And Nini is the mommy who raised me. That's really it. It's not that heavy, it's not that deep. As I get older, I assume they'll have questions, and I will be ready to answer those questions when they come. But I just pretty much just keep reminding them of that, and just part of who I am. So it's just natural conversation amongst my children. But I just keep it age appropriate. That's all. And I think I have two more questions on here. Since these ones were privately messaged to me, I'm gonna keep their names anonymous. But the first question is, oh, this one is a good one. Okay, here's a question. Hi, Hannah. I have a question for your HRA Q&A. I am the white adoptive parent of a black son. We live in a very diverse city in California, which we love, but the schools in our city are terrible. Not only academically, but also unsafe. We have been considering moving to another city with much better schools, but it would be much less diverse due to work situations. We don't have a lot of flexibility in finding other options. The school diversity would go from about 30% black to about 8% black. What are your thoughts on sacrificing diversity in school for a better performing one? I love these questions. You're not probably gonna love my answer, but I love these questions. Okay, me and my husband literally were talking about this last night. So me and my husband Brett just bought this wonderful row home that I'm sitting in right now, in a city. And the city it's not unsafe, but it's a city. And the schools, based on like a grade schools, they are considered failing schools. My son's school, I think, rates at like a 3 out of 10. So there you go. I cannot tell you what to do with your children, but I will tell you where I stand with my children. I believe the idea of better schools is a lie, and I believe that it falls very deeply and heavily within the realm of white supremacy. Let me explain. So, the reason why, in my opinion, there's so much segregation in race and wealth is because people leave cities to go to better schools. There are people who do not have the resources to leave said cities, and therefore they're stuck in their school situation that has limited amount of resources, big teacher turnover, you name it, all X, Y, and Z obstacles in its face, in its path. And so, honestly, me and my husband have the money to live in the suburb that has the 10 out of 10 elementary school. We do. But I chose to send my child to the school that has the 3 because of diversity. It's something that I'm so incredibly passionate about. And as far as I'm concerned, sending your black kid to the 10 out of 10 elementary school is playing to the white supremacist game, in my opinion. Basically, what's happening is you're thinking, oh, well, it'll set them up for success based on a white supremacist ideal of success. It's basically like falling under meritocracy, that if you work hard and if you get good grades and if you blah, 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 then you'll get to good schools. Well, guess what? I went to good schools. I went to an Ivy League school, and guess what? Racism was still there. Nothing in this country is ever going to change if we do not make ourselves uncomfortable, if we're not willing to sacrifice anything. What do I look like saying that I'm here for equal schools and equitable schools, and I'm here for equality, and I want racial ignorance to be done with, and I want racism to go away, and yet I send my child out of the city, out of the diverse space, to go to a better school that's much whiter? It's literally doing the cycle will never stop. People with resources need to stay in cities. People who are white need to go to schools with people who are different races than them. Like, it's never going to be any progress if the people with access and resources hoard all of that resource and access in one spot because they're afraid. I'm not saying, when I say sacrifice, I don't mean let your kid go to school and get shot. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, I've taught in North Philly. I know that there is stuff happening. I know that there is unsafe things. There have been fights outside of my room. I know what's going on in schools. And if my child, if he personally started to fail based on the school that he was going to, we would shift, we would pivot, we would do something else. I'm not saying that we would relocate. I'm not saying that I would send him to a different school. I'd probably homeschool him, but that's beyond the point. To me, it's ass backwards for me to say you should prioritize diversity, but then say, oh, but if it makes you uncomfortable and if it's not safe, then I'm sorry, guys. If we really want to dismantle racism, like we say we do, then we gotta make ourselves uncomfortable. We gotta make ourselves uncomfortable. I know it's not gonna take one person. I know that I'm not gonna be the one person probably who changes my school from failing to success, but maybe I will be. It takes a whole lot more faith to put yourself out there, to make yourself uncomfortable. I could go on this 4 days, and I don't know if I just said made sense because I'm just feeling a little bit passionate right now, but literally, how will anything ever change in this country if the people with the money and the wealth and the access hoard all of that money, wealth, and access to themselves? I don't think about how bad kids might influence my kid. I think about how my kid might influence those kids. If we take out all of the kids who have any promise, how will those schools ever do better? Honestly, there's no closing the opportunity gap if we take away all the opportunities. If we take away all the resources, if we take away all the wealth, if we take away all the privilege. Think about how that school might benefit your child. Anyway, I'm gonna stop, but that's my answer to that question. Those are my thoughts on switching to a school from a diverse school to a better performing school. Because I'm sorry, 9 times out of 10, the diverse school is probably going to be worse performing than the white school. I had one more question on Facebook. And it is, hey Hannah, have you thought about a mentorship program for young TRAs? I am looking for something that my 10-year-old daughter and I was wondering your thoughts on that. I have absolutely considered mentoring. I would love to do that. That was probably my favorite thing about teaching, was developing relationships with the students themselves. It was all of the other bureaucracy crap that I really didn't like, and like the teaching to the test and the standards and all that BS. But yeah, but the kids, that's why I taught. I love them. So I would love to mentor kids, and I'm actually working in partnership with this person who asked this question to hopefully start a mentorship program. And so if that's something that you'd be interested in, be sure to comment below in this video and let me know, because I would love to do that. I would love to do that. All right, let's move on to Instagram. This one says, we have 6 kids. First 4 are bio kids, 5th and 6th joined us through adoption, 1 at birth and 1 via foster care who came shortly after birth. Both son and daughter are biracial, black and white. Both my husband and I are white. Seeking racial mirrors for our kids is so important to me, but I find this rumbling around in my mind often. Is it more important for them to have many fellow biracial mirror friends so they can see someone so much of themselves, or more important that they have fully black friends to expose them to the African American culture that is not ours? Is one more important? I hope that question makes sense. Thank you again. That question makes a lot of sense. As far as I'm concerned, it's nice to have both. I don't think that one is more important than the other. Maybe I do. I think because they're missing the African American parent, since you guys, both mom and dad, are white, I think that I might push a little bit more for exposing them to African American culture, African American families, African American mirrors, because they don't have that. They're not getting what would naturally be supplemented through the half of their family as a biracial person. They're missing that. So I might push more to supplement that first. But I think that they're both equally important. And I noticed in your question you said biracial mirror friends. The mirrors can be friends, mentors, people younger than them, people that they can mentor. Mirrors don't have to always be the equal of who they are. A lot of the most influential people to me were mentors, people who were older than me, who guided me through what Black womanhood looked like. So think about that as well. But yeah, that's what I would say to that. Next one. This one is from Madeline Elise. She posted under my Instagram post, and she said, I would love to hear more about supporting our 3 kiddos who are biracial within transracial adoption. It seems even more complicated to me for some reason, that not only they are different race from us, but that they have multiple races that they identify with as well. Yeah, I would definitely say, actually, Only Black Girl did a great episode on how transracial adoption is not the same as biracialness. Because biracial people often can't find that they feel like they can relate to transracial adoptees because we have that like weird understanding of race, because as a biracial person, you kind of sometimes have that some of those same feelings. But yeah, absolutely. I think that there are definitely not more challenges, because I don't think we should play Suffering Olympics. No, I think that I've had lots of privileges as a light-skinned Black woman, so I'm not going to do that. But I definitely think that there are challenges to being biracial and transracially adopted, in the fact that society often pushes biracial people into choosing a side. At least I have felt that way, that you have to choose Black or white. And obviously I could not choose white because I'm not white and I don't look white, and yeah, anyway, so that never made sense to me. And then because that would be like deceiving myself. And then when you choose black, which most, I feel like biracial people kind of feel like they have to, there sometimes is pushback in the black community of you're not actually black, which some biracial people have experienced. I've experienced it too, but not so much so that it has like perturbed me from exploring that part of my identity. You can't tell me I'm not black. You can tell me, but I don't care because I am. And it doesn't dissolve the racism that I've experienced, and it doesn't disqualify me, and your words don't delegitimize me. So I don't care what you have to say. I am black. That just became a rant about somebody who's saying I'm not black, but that wasn't what you were asking. Basically, there are other challenges, but they're surmountable, if that's promising. And yeah, I mean, they'll be able to connect with other biracial people in that as well, and understanding like the challenges that come with that. But it's not the same as transracial adoption challenges, so it's kind of compounding the two. I turned out all right. Your kids will too. This one's from Wreckage and Wonder. She said, I'd love to hear about how adoption impacted your romantic relationships and how your husband supports you as you continue to navigate adoption. Well, as evidenced by this set, my husband is incredibly supportive of HRA and what I'm doing with adoption. And adoption really hasn't affected my romantic relationships. Honestly, the only story I can think of is when I was like in high school. I dated a guy. Actually didn't date him. I went on a date with a guy, and he came in and he met my mom, and my dad was in the bathroom at the time, and my dad came out later and shook his hand and was like, hey, how you doing? And we walk out of the door to head to the car to go to the movies, and he goes, I thought your dad was gonna be black. Like, he had forgotten that I was transracial adopted, and he just thought I was biracial and had a black and white, parent. So like, there were instances like that where people would be like, the same thing you get everywhere, like, how does that happen? But I mean, I would tell people I was adopted, but sometimes people forget and whatever. So there's always the explanation, but I never made a big deal about it. Like, they're my family, I'm adopted, it is what it is. So no, it never really negatively impacted my relationships at all. I guess maybe some people might have felt like I had a different life than they did. Like Brett, I didn't have maybe what people would think of as the average black girl's experience or the average biracial girl's experience. So there's that, like, sometimes culture shock, but he's so supportive. My husband, I mean, we relate on the fact that he was also adopted, but like through I guess it was kinship adoption. No, I don't know what it's called. I don't know what that's called, but like a marital adoption. Like his biological father was murdered when he was an infant, so he never knew his biological father. And then his mother remarried when he was 5, and her husband adopted him. So we have that understanding of like adoption in those relationships, because like he's still reconnecting. He's kind of in reunification with his birth father side of the family. And so we relate on that kind of, those feelings of like, I know them, but I don't really know them, but I wish I knew them. And yeah, so he supports me in that, and I support him in that. So we have a great relationship. All right, this one says, was it difficult for you to learn about your hair growing up? Yes, it was very difficult. The struggle was super duper duper real. I mean, honestly, I didn't learn about it. I mean, my mom knew a little bit. She knew about like I needed to use a wide tooth comb and I needed to condition my hair, but like with regular Suave conditioner, there was no fancy products, nothing like that. So yeah, she would like braid it at night to make sure it wouldn't get tangled. Like she did, a good job making sure that my hair like wasn't a hot mess, but I didn't learn that much about it. So my hair was a hot mess when I started doing it myself. And ultimately, I would just end up cutting it off So the struggle was super real. It wasn't until I had kids of my own with their own hair that I started learning about how to properly care for curly hair and biracial texture hair. And yeah, once I learned that, then I started to be able to care for my own hair. So thank you for my son, because he's really the reason why I know how to care for my own hair now. And my last question, which is probably the deepest one, and I'm not even sure how to answer, but I'm gonna go for it. It says, I'd love to know your thoughts on DNA testing for our TRA. Our daughter is 6 and we know very little info about her ethnicity. We've considered doing testing, but keep wondering if we should wait until she's older. So when I first saw this question, it kind of made me feel yicky. I don't know if you should do that, because I don't know. Sorry, I know it's not really a very good answer, but is there no way that you don't have any contact with the first family in the situation to even ask questions about ethnicity? I understand the desire to not assume her ethnicity and then maybe be teaching her the wrong things, because I felt that when I took my ancestry DNA. I was like, what if I find out I'm not Black? What if I'm Hispanic? What if all this time I've been overcompensating for my Black identity, because I definitely did that a lot in my younger years, and it turns out I'm not even Black. I have no African ancestry. I would literally have an identity crisis. So I understand that, but I was Black, so praise the Lord. So that was averted. Crisis averted. But so I understand the desire to know so that you can properly teach her about herself. But is there another way that you could find out that's not DNA testing? I feel that should be a very, very last resort. I don't know, something about that just feels maybe she should have some more consent about, I don't know. I'm gonna leave this one up to, I'm gonna throw this one up in the air unless some of my viewers comment below and let me know what you think about it as well. How do you feel about that DNA testing? I don't know, Henrietta Lacks, I don't know, I just think about the history behind science and Black people, and I don't like it. I don't like it. So my first intuition is just don't do that. Try and find another way to find out about her ethnicity and her family history. If there's a way that you can contact first families, or if you can even contact your adoption agency and figure out maybe a little bit. But yeah, I feel DNA is probably should be a last resort. Okay. Yeah, that's my best answer for that though. But yeah, that's all the questions, I think. Hold on, let me make sure. Yeah, that's all my questions. Whoo, we did it. We did it. We did it. Yeah. Nos hacemos. Yeah. So that was my Q&A episode. I really hope that if you asked a question that I answered it well enough for you. And I thank you to every single person who submitted a question to me. They were all very thoughtful, very insightful, very obviously you took time to think about, and I appreciate you for that. And if you don't already, again, be sure to subscribe to my channel, follow me on social media. If you're not in my book club, join my book club by searching HTRA Book Club Babes on Facebook. You can request to join that. If you're interested, right now it's February, we're reading Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, and it is a doozy. You should read it. Okay. And if you haven't already, participate in my IG challenge. That's for anyone who bought my Black History Month calendar. Black History Month calendar for white Americans. If you bought one of those, you can participate in my Instagram challenge and have a chance to win an awesome privilege tee, a pin with a Fannie Lou Hamer quote on it and D'Angelo's White Fragility book. All you have to do is create a post and tag me in it and just explain something you learned from my calendar this month. That's all. That's it. And if you haven't ordered a calendar, you can still get one. It's $4.99 and you can do it. I mean, it doesn't have to be Black History Month. You should be learning about Black history all year long. I think that's really all of the housekeeping. Yeah. So until the other Wednesday, unless you're on Patreon, peace. Oh, guys, I'm going to the Kindred retreat this weekend. So I'm definitely going to be filming some stuff from then. So that'll probably be my next video. Yeah, it's going to be lit. All right, peace. All again in my own little corner, all alone in my own little chair. Thank you, Journey.